Well, thanks for joining us on this special broadcast on this Sunday evening. I'm Niranjan as we continue to bring focus on what India plans to do vis-a-vis Pakistan. It's not just lawmakers in America. Even in India, there's a campaign on to declare Pakistan a terrorist nation. A Rajya Sabha member, Rajeev Chandrasekhar, has submitted a private member's bill to the upper house to label Pakistan a terror state. Now, we spoke to him this evening, and this is a bill that will tag Pakistan a terror state. It's titled the Declaration of States, a sponsor of Terrorism Bill 2016. He wants to move the bill during the winter session of Parliament. Rajeev Chandrasekhar has written to Rajya Sabha chairman to move this private bill. I spoke to him this evening on whether he had political consensus on this bill. And joining us on the special broadcast this evening is Rajya Sabha MP Rajeev Chandrasekhar. He's joining us from Kozhikode this evening, and this is the bill that he wants to introduce in Parliament soon, and it will be called Declaration of States as Sponsor of Terrorism Bill 2016. It's a private member's bill, and Rajeev Chandrasekhar, a very outspoken parliamentarian, wants to introduce this bill, which means he wants to tag Pakistan a terrorist state. Rajeev, has the time come to finally move a bill like this to tag Pakistan a terrorist state? It's not just lawmakers in America. Do you have support for this bill? Have you spoken to other parliamentarians, or is this one man's view?
No, I think, Niranjan, the time has definitely come for India to declare Pakistan for what Pakistan really represents, a real threat to civilized communities and human beings all over the world. And while we go out and galvanize public opinion around the world and global international opinion, I think it is important to get our parliamentarians and indeed all citizens of this country to become more aware and, in a sense, call Pakistan for what they are, a terror state. In terms of having support for this, I have spoken to a large number of MPs, and I think there is very few MPs that do not share the view that Pakistan is a terror state. It is of course possible that there are some parties that will continue to play politics, and politics has been played on the issue of terror not once, not twice, many times in the past, and it is possible that some politicians and some political parties do continue to play that politics with India's integrity and the threat that terror represents.
Rajeev, a couple of days back this question was asked to the Ministry of External Affairs and the spokesperson, because every day, of course, we've been hearing that rhetoric about what action needs to be taken against Pakistan, especially from the government. There are very strong voices, but here's one such voice. In fact, the MEA day before said it's a known fact that Pakistan practices terror as a state policy, quote unquote. The Home Minister of the country categorically labelled Pakistan a terror state on the day the Uri attacks took place. Now, do you believe you also have the support of the ruling party in this case?
No, I think, Dharanjan, we will find out when the bill is tabled in Parliament. We will find out, for example, I have requested the chairman of the Rajya Sabha to have, on the very first day of the winter session, to table a resolution pending the private members bill, table a resolution that will be declaring Pakistan a terror state. So I think it is important for us to find out in Parliament where the political parties are and where individual MPs are on this issue. So while our ultimate goal is to obviously nail Pakistan and nail Pakistan's status as a terror state, it is also important that through this process we find out in public view and for all of the citizens of this country where the political parties are and where individual politicians are on this issue of declaring Pakistan a terror state.
Yeah, so in a sense you want to test the waters, you want to test the political waters, on this bill to tag Pakistan a terror state. Now let me ask you one more question. Of course, you've spoken of exploring the economic, you've spoken of exploring military options, apart from, diplomatic options to isolate Pakistan. Now, as far as US aid is concerned, we know what America has been saying vis-a-vis Pakistan. The tone has changed dramatically over the last, especially 1 year. Now, the civilian aid is down to 2.5 billion. over the last 5 years. This year they've also cut down additional aid because of course Pakistan hasn't fallen in line. Do you believe sanctions against Pakistan is a real possibility in the near future, and this could be the first step? The tag that we give them as a terrorist state, following that we can have sanctions. Do you think that's a possibility?
Absolutely. I think, Niranjan, we all realize that Pakistan has no economy to talk about. The only thing that they do with all the money that they earn is to fund the Pakistani army, which is why Pakistan has all of these very, very, very low social and development indexes. So we know the Pakistan economy is being kept afloat by the twin pillars of Chinese aid and to some extent Saudi Arabian aid and the Middle Eastern countries. And as we go out and make sure that the world understands what Pakistan is doing with all that money that they get in the name of their poor people, I think that aid will also begin to dry up. It is in our interest to start making sure that the world knows that the Pakistan is a terror state, and we calling them a terror state, we resolving that they are a terror state, will help the world come to the conclusion that they are a terror state. And once Pakistan is characterized as a terror state, it becomes very difficult and almost unjustifiable for countries like China to continue these no frills attached kind of aid packages that they give to Pakistan, subsidizing this whole export of terrorism from Pakistan.
You know, the tone of the government, Rajeev, the tone of the government, especially going by what we've heard and what we've seen in the last 2 days, from strategic restraint, it's come down to strategic restraint, diplomatic fire. And at a time like this, of course, the plan that you have, or the bill that you've moved or you plan to introduce in Parliament, is one way of taking the diplomatic offensive a step forward. So have you directly spoken to somebody in the government or in the opposition?
Look, I just want to make one point, Niranjan. Strategic restraint as practiced by the UPA was essentially a way of saying we will not do anything. This government, and as from my interactions, informal and unofficial interactions with the government and people in the government, is very, very unstrategic restraint. I mean, if I can use that phrase. But they are being smart about how to engage with and corner Pakistan. It is not just about military. It's about diplomatic offensive, it's about economic offensive, and then of course there is always the use of military and strategic options. But we have to explore fully and completely without any half measures the economic power that we have and the world has over Pakistan, the diplomatic power that we have and the world has over Pakistan, before we even start talking about the military options.
Right.
So I think my own engagement with people in the government, they are completely off the record, completely informal, is that people in the government are also thinking precisely the same way, which is, it is not just about rushing to a military strategy, it's about completely exploring the other options of diplomacy and the economic angle before we unleash the weapons of destruction on Pakistan.
Yeah, as an independent MP who's been in Parliament even during the UPA tenure, Rajeev, it's interesting that you've patted the government on its back on its approach towards Pakistan. Now, I want to ask you a political question. I know you're an independent MP. When the Uri attacks took place, on day one we heard the left dragging Kashmir narrative into reasons why Uri attack took place at all. And secondly, today as we broadcast, the Congress party, and I quote, has said the government has been caught pussyfooting on the issue of terror. Now, at a time when there's a diplomatic, we need to speak as one, sit on the table and think of ways in which we deal with Pakistan, be it diplomatic or strategic. Are these different voices that are emerging in the political landscape the way to go forward?
No, I think it's really shameful. I think at this stage the country should be demonstrating to the outside world that we are completely resolved. We are all one voice, and that voice is about defeating Pakistan, naming Pakistan as a terror state. So to have this kind of sniping by politicians from the Congress and now from the BSP, and making absurd points about the Prime Minister couldn't prevent a terror attack in Uri, as if President Obama is able to prevent terror attacks in the US, as if Angela Merkel is able to prevent terror attacks in West Germany. Terrorism is not something that can ever be safeguarded 100% against, that these politicians should have the brains to understand. And to come out now to snipe in this manner at a time when the world is looking at India and India is trying to engage with the world in isolating the most dangerous source of terrorism for the entire world, including India, is completely shameful. I have absolutely no qualms about saying this kind of political quibbling at this stage is absolutely unacceptable and shameful.
Yeah, one last question. So you're confident that this bill will go through? You're confident this will go through, this bill, to label Pakistan a terror state finally?
No, I am never confident about anything that I do in Parliament. I go at it with a lot of conviction. I have found that there are many similar thinking people in Parliament, and I am hopeful that at the end of the day, public pressure, media pressure, and the general desire for citizens of India and many political parties, like-thinking political parties, to do the right thing will cause either this bill or some variant of this bill to be passed and the Parliament to resolve that Pakistan is a terror state.
If India is calling them a terror state, why not label them officially a terror state, is what Rajeev Chandrasekhar believes this evening. Rajeev, thank you for joining us. Hopefully there should be a political consensus on the issue of labeling Pakistan a terror state. In fact, we said out loud, hopefully this should go through Parliament. Thank you for joining us, Rajeev.